The religious, political and civil rights community is mourning the passing of Reverend Jesse Jackson at age 84. Arise correspondent Georgina Ndukwe-Yinka takes a look at the life of the man Jesse Jackson and why he was one of the most significant leaders of the 20th century American civil rights movement, whose reputation as a peacemaker, troublemaker and groundbreaker, whose non-conformist ideology helped pave the way for the progressive policies of leaders like Barack Obama in the 21st century. Let's take a look.
Jesse Louis Jackson was an American civil rights activist, politician, and ordained Baptist minister, born on the 8th of October 1941 in Greenville, South Carolina, United States, and died on the 17th of February 2026 in Chicago, Illinois, United States. In the mid-1960s, Jackson joined the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and became a protege of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther recognized Jackson's charisma and appointed him to lead Operation Breadbasket in Chicago. The goal was simple but radical: use the economic power of black consumers to force white-owned businesses to hire black workers and stock black products. Jackson was standing beside Martin Luther King Jr. when he was assassinated in 1968. Many Americans believed he was the anointed successor of Martin Luther King Jr. Jackson emerged from that tragedy determined to keep the movement's momentum from dying with its leader. In 1971, Jackson founded PUSH, People United to Save Humanity, in Chicago. He became the face of black capitalism and self-reliance, famously leading crowds in the protest against racism and injustice. By the 1980s, his vision expanded. He formed the National Rainbow Coalition, a brilliant and revolutionary attempt to unite Black Americans, Hispanics, poor whites, and marginalized groups into a single political force. Jackson ran for the Democratic nomination for the office of the President of the United States in 1984 and 1988. In 1984, he registered millions of new voters and proved that a black man could win primary states. In 1988, he doubled his vote count, winning nearly 7 million votes and finishing second to Michael Dukakis. As the years passed, Jackson transitioned into the role of an elder statesman. He stood as a bridge between the fire of the 1960s civil rights movement and the modern era of political representation. While his career was not without controversy or verbal gaffes, his impact on the American electoral map is undeniable. He proved that the rainbow was not just a metaphor, but a voting bloc. Many political analysts argue that Obama's 2008 victory was built on the foundation Jackson had laid, specifically the strategy of expanding the electorate rather than just chasing swing voters. Today, Jesse Jackson's story is one of determination, dedication, and endurance. The fire that started in Greenville still ignites many leaders he mentored and the millions he convinced that they were indeed somebody and can be whatever they want to be in the United States of America.
Joining us on the show to discuss how his advocacy extended from grassroots organizing to national campaigns, empowering the voiceless and inspiring generations worldwide, is Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, Nigeria's former Minister of Foreign Affairs. Good morning, Professor Akinyemi. Thank you so much for joining us today on the morning show.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai.
Morning,
and
sir.
good morning, Dr. Abati.
Prof, you're looking dapper as always.
Good morning, sir. And thank you for joining us.
You're matching.
Let's start with.
But what are you? What?
Let's start with your.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you. Let's start with your personal tribute to Reverend Jesse Jackson. I imagine you will have met him several times in the course of work. And secondly, to focus on his connection with Africa. He was involved during that apartheid period fighting for social justice He was also a very good friend of Nigeria. He was very close to President Obasanjo, close also to the Jonathan administration, close also to individuals in the Nigerian society, like Chief Ike Clark of blessed memory. Your tribute first, and then, his connection with Africa, either as an activist for social justice, or as an envoy for the United States government, especially under President Barack Obama.
Well, thank you for the issues you've raised, and I'm glad you've raised those issues, because actually I thought I'd spent this morning celebrating, not paying tribute, but celebrating a personal friend of mine, a friend of Africa, and a friend of Nigeria, by drawing attention to specific issues that took place under him. There are episodes that people don't even remember because we are concentrating on, which I can understand, because he was an American, and his role started in the United States. But when I was a minister, he approached me that he wanted to take a tour of Southern Africa, because at that time, the anti-apartheid struggle was on, and he wanted to identify with it, but he wanted to promote Nigeria through that trip. So I approached President Babangida and I said, let's give him a plane, because if he goes on that trip, that will be against soft diplomacy for Nigeria, because he will be using a Nigerian plane, and whether he mentions Nigeria or not, they will see on that plane, and there will be our officers from the ministry who will be on that plane. And of course, typical of President Babangida, he approved it. And so Jesse Jackson came with his entourage to Lagos, and we gave him a Boeing 707. You know how big that plane is. And from here, he took off for Southern Africa. And true to his word, wherever he went, he mentioned Nigeria, the role Nigeria was playing. And of course, he also talked about how the Africans in the diaspora were identifying with the struggle in Southern Africa. So it was a successful trip for him and a successful trip for us. But from then on, he identified with Nigeria, and he saw it as part of his own ambition in life to promote Nigeria. When the issue of June 12 came in, the President of the United States appointed him as Ambassador for Democracy. That was really a cover for him to come and identify with our struggle against the attempt to derail June 12. And he came in. By that time, Abacha was in power, but he spoke forcefully. He talked to those of us who, by that time, were in the trenches, that he was in the trenches with us. But one thing that I'll never forget is the fact that Jesse Jackson was actually the one who planted in the mind of Nelson Mandela that unless Nigeria was successful, the black race, not just Africans, the black race will not be successful, because that was what he believed in. And his disappointment was the fact that once the military was over, once the anti-apartheid struggle was over, Nigeria seems to have just pulled back into its shell rather than see its ambition as promoting the black race. He kept mentioning it. And I'm glad, Dr. Abati, because Nigerians don't seem, because all the things I've been hearing, nobody was mentioning his interest in Nigeria. But you have mentioned the fact that he kept visiting Nigeria. When the Boko Haram issue first started, he came to Nigeria and he spoke to me and said, look, he succeeded in getting in Iraq and in Syria their presidents to release the people whom they had arrested and put in detention, that he got them to release them. How can he leverage on that to get Boko Haram and ISWAP and whatever it is to release the people that they themselves had arrested? Now, he wasn't the only one who was here with his foundation. Blair was also here with his own foundation. And it was like there was a competition between the two foundations as to which foundation was going to get those people released from the people that they had arrested, the people that they had detained. I explained to him that the atmosphere in Nigeria was different from what he had experienced in Iraq and in Syria. Because in Iraq and in Syria, he was dealing with governments who had detained those people. Whereas in Nigeria, it was non-state actors who had kidnapped those people, and how he would even get in touch with them was going to be difficult. So here was he getting involved in the domestic affairs of Nigeria, but it proved rather difficult for him to achieve. And then, of course, he became ill. We continued to talk to each other, but till he died, I must say this, because I was in touch with him, till he died, he still has this faith that Nigeria must make it. Okay. And that if Nigeria failed, the black race was going to fail.
Prof, can you hear
and the question, yeah, I can hear you, but just let me finish with this sentence. Okay. Yeah. The problem was, how was he going to get this message across to the Nigerian authorities? Okay. And I was so happy when the Secretary General of the United Nations said in Addis Ababa last week that Nigeria has a responsibility for leading African role in building the new world order. I called him. He couldn't speak, but he could hear me. And I said to him, Reverend, we won't give up, even after you are gone.
Okay. Prof, thank you so much, for that. And sorry about your loss of a personal friend. And we will celebrate him, we will not mourn. Those patriots of the civil rights struggle are fast going. Probably we have the likes of Andrew Young remaining, which is another man we are praying for, that God will continue to keep his life, because Nigeria was a beehive of activities for those people in the 70s. Andrew Young too came here a lot. Jesse Jackson came here a lot. I mean, because they had a connection, and they fought the repression. They fought the lack of being somebody. And they saw that Nigeria was on the bounce. And that's where Nigeria dominated things on the world stage. The other day, I was talking to Professor Awurawo, and he mentioned the likes of Joe Garba. I mentioned my kinsman, the likes of Ikenwa, the likes of your humble self, Prof. You see, when Nigeria was at an ascendancy then, and they did a lot of things, something like you talked about the fact that we need to have an old African bomb, which the cartoonist, if my memory serves me right, laughed at you in the papers. But today, you have been proven right. But the problem we have with Nigeria today, Prof, is this. People of your crop, of your stature, are no longer the ones leading us. It's those that don't even understand the ethos of relationship, of camaraderie, are the ones leading us today. I mean, look at the likes of MK Abiola, that despite being a politician here, was also doing the work as regards black rights, emancipation, reparation, and all of that. Then you had people that had a global mindset. But the people you have today is how to connive with the National Assembly not to pass basic electoral laws in the interest of people, how to steal election, how to steal money, how not to release money for budgets, how to promise and fail. So there's a disconnect, Prof. That's why Nigeria is not where it is today. What can you say about this?
Well, look, let us not compare coconut with groundnut. We served under the military. That environment is different from an environment where somebody will claim that he bugged the phone of a national security advisor and the EFCC will give him administrative bail. In the United States, even before the trial, the man will be locked up. It may take years before the trial. Immediately he's been given administrative bail. This is not a serious country. And the people who are running the agencies, they don't seem to have a clue or as to what to do. Under the military, that would not have happened. But please, don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating a military regime. I'm just saying that we served the military and we had that focus. That's number one. Number two, the issues that we were facing, we were able to tailor it to fit our national interest. In Nigeria of today, it is partisan politics. Number three, in Nigeria of today, you are confronting Boko Haram, you are confronting ISWAP, you are confronting people who are busy kidnapping people who are the place. It didn't take place in our own time. Therefore, and if you try the last week, we spent the whole of last week talking about Murtala Mohammed and his speech in Addis Ababa. I was in the hall for that speech, and I noticed the way his tone changed when he got to where he made that statement. He was now talking like a military officer. His tone hardened. Even his face hardened when he made that statement. But the fact is, he could make that statement because he was in charge. These days, you fight the government of the day, we don't even know why the opposition is fighting the government of the day. We've got to be careful that we develop a vision for our country. I don't blame the government for lack of vision, because what a government says today, the opposition attacks it, even though if the opposition gets into power, it's going to do the same thing. The only government that I can think of since June 12th who had that vision and who ran with that vision was the Obasanjo government of 1999. Yes, I think it's 1999.
Yes,
But don't forget, sorry?
Yes, 1999, sir.
Ayo.
I said 1999, yes. I was agreeing with you.
Thank you. 1999. But we have also put in our constitution this, what do you call it now? That you can only do 2 terms. Often we don't know what people often say, be careful what you pray for. Because if you have only 2 terms, but when you finish that, the next government coming in reverses all the things that you have done. And we don't realize that that is the consequence of having 2 terms. The democracy that we are practicing is a democracy of negativism. You must just oppose for opposition's sake. So, frankly, you were asking, you kept asking again, what's the way forward? What's the way forward? Frankly, if people like me were to talk about the way forward, I think they probably will close down your station, because it's not that easy with the kind of constitution that we are running. China, that has moved forward, is not running the Western type of democracy. And in any case, with somebody like Trump, that democracy has brought forward in the United States, I'm not sure that, I will be preaching Western democracy as a panacea for the problems we have in this country. I think we must go back to basics. We tried it when we had the national conference, but the national conference was also limited. I was the vice chairman, or I was the deputy chairman. It was limited in the objectives that we could pursue.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Prof, for speaking to us this morning. I think it's particularly special because you shared a personal relationship with Reverend Jesse Jackson and just highlighting his connections to not just the African continent, but to Nigeria, in addition, of course, to his work with the emancipation of African Americans in the United States of America and in pursuit of racial justice. We thank you for your time this morning, and again, our condolences on the loss of your friend and a global icon.